So just a few weeks ago, it was the 2023 Valorant Champions tournament, and what an insane tournament it was, with crazy upsets such as Billy just destroying Energy with the Judge and Raze, and Loud getting their revenge on Fnatic, and stopping them from almost winning 3 tournaments in a row, and finally we saw Evil Geniuses beat Paper X in the finals, also seeing Potter, their head coach, become the first female Valorant Champions winner. So the question you might be wondering now is, how big is Valorant Esports? So for example, what was the peak viewership of Valorant in the 2023 Champions? It had 1.29 million peak viewers for 2023, which is slightly below 2022 when it had 1.5 mil. But does that slight drop necessarily mean that it's dying? We'll come back to that later. For now, I want to take a look at what might be the face of Valorant Esports, and definitely the most known player, and that is TenZ. He used to be considered the best Valorant player in the world for some time. But that got me thinking, why are most professional Valorant players so unknown? Like even now, after watching a couple of matches, I only know pretty much the most famous players, like Aspas from Loud, or Jing from Paper X, or Demon1, and the kind of obvious answer is TenZ is a streamer, and a really big one too.
Oh wow, I'm nervous right now.
And although Valorant really does try to promote its esports scene, mainly in-game with like skin bundles and even a poster in a map, most people aren't familiar with the teams, and so they don't really have a team that they support and can say, oh, I'm rooting for this team to win, in the same way that some people have their favorite sports team or football team. The one team I see handling this the best by far is Sentinels. Their social media team is blowing all the other teams out the water. On TikTok alone, they have over 1 million followers, and they're signing streamers like Tarek to boost their popularity, and so they can have a bigger fan base. On the other hand, we have the Valorant Champions for 2023, Evil Geniuses, with about 40,000 followers. And I'm not saying every Valorant pro has to become a streamer right now, but they have to find a way to create a fan base, and to put attention on teams rather than just individual players. And they really need a consistent fan base to buy their merch, to watch them on multiple platforms, and support them in other ways. And before you underestimate this importance, these teams really need the money. Now that's gonna sound kind of shocking, because you'll think from the Valorant Champions bundles, 50% of the money goes to Valorant Esports teams that actually competed, so surely they have plenty of money, right? I mean, the 2023 Champions bundle raised over $20 million just for the teams alone, and the prize pool for the tournament was over $2 million. However, Evil Geniuses has told their own roster that literally just won that if they want to stay with the team, they'd have to accept a significant pay cut, or they just have to look for a new team to play for. I mean, this sounds hard to believe, but if you consider that these teams have to pay for the players, the housing, the travel, employees, and much more, they'll be left with a ton of expenses, which will be really difficult to pay off unless they decide to do something like this and give their players a pay cut. And of course you could say some teams are better ran than others, and some don't manage their expenses as well. But at the end of the day, they need to find a way to monetize their teams better, and most importantly, get more views. Let me give you an example of this done perfectly. Okay, this comparison is kind of a stretch, but the English Premier League is the best football league in the world. But it wasn't always this way. Over the years, they've gained the most viewership, allowing them to have the most money to be able to buy the best players in the world, and therefore have the best teams in the world. And as a football fan, it's so easy to get involved. All you have to do is pick a team, decide to support them for life, and start watching their matches every week. And then you can start watching YouTubers talk about your team, you can start doing things like you can buy merch, you can do so much more. And the other problem is, with the Valorant Esports team, they're relevant literally 3 times a year. VCT Masters 1, VCT Masters 2, and finally the Champions. It would be cool if there was like maybe a league system, rather than playing in tournaments, they played in a league, as that would result in a lot more games and a lot more content. Speaking of content, Valorant is lacking in the YouTube content scene. And you may have noticed recently a bunch of Valorant creators quitting, like Eggwick and WestJet and Judgment. And as a Valorant creator myself, I can see why. It's hard to make unique and interesting Valorant content, because a lot of it, when you go on YouTube, is either just going to be tutorials on how to improve your aim, or a ton of smurfing content, or sometimes just challenge videos like 1 Radiant versus 5 Bronze. And it can really start to get boring after a while. And unfortunately, creating content about esports isn't that good of a method either, as there's only about 3 tournaments a year. However, there are some genuinely very good YouTubers who cover esports content, whether it's an analysis of a match or individual players. It's stuff like this that gets casual viewers more into the esports scene. Now, I've been speaking kind of negatively about Valorant Esports, but to be fair, it's got a lot going for it, and it seems to have a genuinely bright future. Because Valorant is objectively a good game. Now, I'd love to make a longer video and talk about why I think Valorant is objectively a great game, but for now, let's just look at the numbers. First of all, earlier I mentioned how it had a slight dip in peak viewership, but if you look at other games, it's actually true for those as well. Look at CSGO, it had 1.5 million in 2023, but 2.1 in 2022, and even higher in 2021. And if you look at the most popular esports games by peak viewership, number 1 is Mobile Legends, then League of Legends, and CSGO, then Valorant. We're going to ignore the Mobile Legends one as it's a mobile game, but as for the other two that are above it, they are way older than Valorant. League of Legends was made in 2009, CSGO in 2012, and Valorant was made in 2020. So for it to be competing with CSGO is pretty crazy already. And regardless of what other people may have you think, Valorant is not dying and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, it's growing. Now, we're gonna ignore 2020 because of lockdown, but if you look at 2021 onwards, you can see pretty much a slowly increasing trend of average monthly players, with it hitting its absolute peak in August 2023. That was just last month, even higher than any month in 2020. So anyone telling you Valorant is dying is straight up ignoring the facts. And in terms of esports teams, huge YouTubers investing and many more people investing in teams right now. For example, like Disguised Toast starting his team DSG. More streamers are expressing their interest in creating a Valorant team, with even rumors of MrBeast creating one, which could be pretty crazy if it does happen. It seems people can see Valorant's potential, and rightfully so. So to answer the question, could Valorant become the biggest esport? It's too early to say for sure, but it definitely has the potential. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what you guys think. Could Valorant really become the biggest esport?